Yeah. So, I mean, the technology that Kernel has developed, and again, I disclaimer, I'm not representing any official opinion of Kernel with my thoughts here. I'm just someone that happens to have some information and, happens to have an opinion about this type of stuff. The technology that Kernel has developed could be used in either FDA, regulated interventions or, non-FDA, optimization, kind of this human biohacking type thing. There, in order to optimize, you kind of have to know what good means, and that's very hard. Like we don't, it's not like we can just scan someone's brain using any kind of neuroimaging technology and say, oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Like we just, neuroscience has not developed to that point yet. But one could definitely use kernel flow, which is, non-invasive. It's relatively cheap. It's relatively easy to use and to collect data with. It has lots of other benefits that allow us to, standardize the data that we collect from many different sites or participants, which is a problem with other systems where you have to do harmonization to make the data match between two different MRI machines and stuff like that. So there's opportunities there to build large scale data sets, build reference ranges, and again, if you have a well formulated question, start to learn what good means for that specific well formulated question. And that's something that we, for example, we publicly explored with a partner called AIM Labs. So AIM Labs, they were interested in this. Like, are there neural signatures of expert, performance in video games? That was something that's a question that they were asking.
Yeah.
Um,
Video
and
games
so,
seems like a low-hanging fruit. DeepMind got in that direction. It's like a reproducible version of this world to learn more about the reality itself. Would VR be a potentially better route to generate these breakthroughs? I'm just not sure about treating diseases first. It seems very specific. It seems like you're extinguishing one fire while the goal would be to plug this. Well, I mean, my goal, if I would, when I will start this BCI company, it will be to optimize. Before optimizing, even like gathering data, like you said, I think that would be number one. I don't think I would do it the Apple way. They seem to be super slow. And we might want to discuss why. But to me, it's like fixing a disease. But I guess Kernel is also into understanding the data, right? So tell us about the data capturing part of it all and how you try to make sense of it with ML amongst other tools.
well, it really starts with, again, having a very well formulated question and developing the right psychological experiments that can collect the type of that can essentially put humans in the right types of conditions, and especially the right types of contrasting conditions, so that you can compare two things and find the difference between them. And that difference is the thing that you maybe want to optimize or maximize or minimize.
Right.
Um,
And if you'd have to guess that well formulated question, and if it would not be disease related or mental disease related, what would it be?
well, for me personally, the thing that I'd be interested in exploring is this idea of mindfulness and mind wandering, and the types of I actually have a public project on my GitHub called No Wander, which is something that I started during my neuroscience Ronin period, where I was just like, can we develop a reliable mind wandering detector? And can you use that to just like be a technological assistant to yourself, to like, hey, you're actually drifting off, not just because you're losing focus, but you're starting to, I think that a lot of, and there's literature support for this. I think that a lot of the symptoms of mood disorders are very, very tied into this mind wandering and not being aware of the things that you are focusing on. When you don't realize that your mind is occupied with, if you don't realize what your mind is occupied with, then you can find yourself trapped in negative, thought patterns and stuff like that, because you just don't realize that you're doing that because you're not mindful, you're not present. So being able to detect that, I think would be huge. If you just could have a technological assistant that's like, hey, you're heading into that space again. It's not a happy space. Just a heads up. That would be super awesome. And so that's a project that I'm especially interested in. I haven't worked on it in a while, but that's one that I think would be super cool.
Right. If you would have a set of questions to ask an AGI, what would you ask it?
Uh, what kind of AGI are we talking about? Is this an Oracle AGI? Is this like is it yeah, I'm not sure that's a well for. Can you be more specific?
I mean, we can go in various types of AGI, but it would be general, right? It would know everything about everything.
Okay. Can I cheat? Can I say like, can I
100%.
ask it what is the thing that I need to know to what if you had the opportunity to ask you a question, what should I be asking you? That's because if it knows everything, it would also know the best question to ask. It might know my goals better than I do, and it might know what question I should ask that would give me the best information to achieve my goals. So I'm not sure I would be best equipped. So my question number one would be, what question should I ask? And then I'd ask it that question.
Would you be surprised if it would answer you back with something that has to do with heart intelligence?
What does heart intelligence mean?
There's brain
Heart as
cells
in
in there.
corazon or hard?
Corazon.
Okay.
There's brain cells in there. There's also brain cells in the gut. But let's say that there would be deeper form of intelligence, such as gut intelligence or heart intelligence. It's not necessarily something that's related with IQ and data.
Absolutely. Yeah, I try to be very careful with to say the brain and body, because the brain is part of the body. These are not isolated things. We are one, holistic system, and we're not even one system. Like you and I are a system together. So I I I would I would be very surprised if its answer were something as simple as tweak this connection between neuron A on neuron B. Like no, the answer has to we are much more interconnected and complex than that. So yeah, that I'm totally on board.
Nice, man. I was about to ask you a last why question, but I refrained. Um, Sami, thank you for the time today. It's been cool.
That was
You
fun.
twisted my mind in various ways. I can't guarantee that other podcasts will be as fun. Um, Talking to you kind of feels like talking to an AGI or something.
So I'm an alien.
Um, Near, but I relate to it as well because I say words and get insights that I feel at least have deep wisdom sometimes and others do not understand. And I don't expect them to understand up until sometimes. But the part of questions asking and this etymology in itself is something I've been digging into. I still think there's a lot of value in the why, though. And I still think it's one of our main current battle horses in terms of reasoning and logic and find out questions, but it definitely plant a seed
Yeah, I
so
mean, I
so
think
that it can flourish.
There's a distinction, the phrase, all models are wrong, but some are useful, right? I think asking why questions is that same kind of model building about the world. And if that gives you useful leverage to make progress on something, then great. But
Serotonin.
it but you shouldn't necessarily confuse that with actual, like, you have developed some deep insight on like the nature of the world. It's just no, you've found a useful way to frame your thinking to develop new insights. And again, any tool that's useful, great, use it.
You think the shape of her brain, that this jello box being held in a skull, do you think it's limiting or way of thinking? Do you think that a more complex, more compact brain would lead to better insight?
I think that the facts of our biology have to impose some kind of constraints. We like it. Obviously, I mean, we cannot pay infinite attention to everything all at once. Just as a very simple example, I have no idea what was happening outside my window over the past hour. So there are obviously biological constraints. Whether one particular modification or another would be better or worse, I have no opinion on. But yes, we have to respect that we are physical beings, and that those comes along with very meaningful physical constraints.
And then if we ever get to the full cyborg phase of things and want to maintain this human consciousness, that is, if we don't find an artificial way to maintain that consciousness, I guess we would have to trick the brain physically into thinking that we're still this consciousness into this next more cyborgy thing.
I don't see any. Are you saying that cyborgs can't be conscious?
They can be artificially conscious. I do believe that we will be able to artificially make consciousness, but I think that until then there will be a bridge that will be biological and artificial. I do think that the question is like, do you think there's a zone in the brain that's specifically responsible for consciousness, or is it the aggregation of the full frontal lobe mostly?
I don't have a I could tell you other people's theories, but
Yeah, please do.
I don't have one. I think that I think even sometimes the concept of consciousness is maybe not very well defined, and it's
Right.
treated as this unitary thing that maybe it really is not. Like
Okay,
I'm
so if you'd
very
have to define what consciousness is,
ooh,
or
that's
to
a whole.
point theories, or a couple like the top three, what would that be?
Well, I mean, I was going to say that there's very interesting research in robotics about this idea of the minimal self, and like what are the minimal amount of cognitive components that you need to have a concept of the self. Whether that has to do anything with consciousness, I have no idea. A philosopher might tell you that you could build all of these cognitive capabilities, and yet there would still be nothing that it is like to be that thing. And yeah, maybe that's I haven't like really. I don't know. I don't know.
You seem to place a lot of emphasis on philosophers, while I would define philosophers as anything that science hasn't found out yet. Do you feel that these
Ooh.
folks have grown more compact brains, or like higher firing capability in their brains, or just more neurons in some area? How do they go that deep where most wouldn't even dream of being able to go, mentally speaking?
Well, you just said something there that like philosophy is the things that science hasn't figured out yet, as if there's some kind of division between philosophy and science. And I don't think that there is. Just I think that philosophy is an inherent part of science, and a lot of times that philosophy is smuggled in the traditions of your particular field, and so you don't really pay attention to all the philosophical underpinnings of the science that you're doing. That doesn't mean you're not doing philosophy. It's just that you don't realize the philosophy that you're doing. You're doing.
Yeah, I
So
agree with that. It's I
these are
was
not
just a
separate things.
controversial like one liner that sounded good, a nice story. But would you also agree that fiction and sci-fi is also a strong contributor nowadays to this?
Yeah, definitely. I love, yes, absolutely. I love sci-fi. I love fantasy. I love philosophical. What's it called? something sci-fi. It's not speculative sci-fi.
Right. It's like
I,
realistic sci-fi kind of.
I
I
think
love the term as well.
fiction is a great playground to take a philosophical concept and explore its implications. I mean, and that's what the philosophers did, right? Like they would tell stories. They would, take some concept and they'd tell a story about. Well, okay, consider, like they would tell parables and they would develop fables and like that's what we do, though that's we take a concept and then we tell a story with it and we see what are the implications and maybe you like those implications and maybe you don't.
All right. Last question of the pod. How many steps have you taken since we started the podcast?
Since we
Don't look.
started,
You can't check. You just
oh,
your
I
brain.
I can't check. Oh,
No.
I have no idea. I'm not paying attention. Well, it's been okay. Let's see. It's been about an hour, so it'd be about 5,000 steps.
Okay, but I want to know the mental math. Is it like 2 steps per second?
It's about no, it's about 5,000 steps an hour. That's how I know.
Okay. Yeah, but yeah, you cheated.
Because
You
I
already
set
knew.
I set it on a particular speed, so I know the speed. I
What is
know
the
how many
speed?
steps. 4.5 kilometers an hour.
That's pretty quick, by the way.
I actually stepped it down to 4.2 for this conversation because I noticed during our pre-interview that I was getting a bit out of breath and I didn't want it to be an unpleasant experience for the listener.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Are you
but
gonna go
yeah,
run today?
no, I run on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday.
Okay. How much kilometers?
I run about 9 kilometers.
Nice. Pretty good. How many minutes of meditation today?
Well, I combine my meditation with other things. So I try to get 2 hours of meditation a day. I don't
My
always
God.
succeed. I always get at least one. Um,
But that's a lot.
and and then I try to combine it with things. I like to do walking meditation. I
Yeah.
love to do the Vipassana body scan while I'm running. It's one of the most awesome experiences.
Whoa.
So I try to like push it up closer to that 2 hour mark by combining it with movement.
You pretty much have like yeah, a Neuralink, a 2050 Neuralink. You already have that in your brain with meditation. Do you often make that analogy or
I have never made that analogy.
but it's literally this, like if you can body scan while running, it's literally like having a tool that most humans would never have.
Well, yeah, like I
I
said,
will try it
meditation
actually.
is a technology. Like these are technological tools that we have developed to train the brain to do certain things. And yeah, you can develop skills that you would not otherwise develop, and they are super awesome.
Yeah, okay, last question, I promise. With these mental tools, like your goal in life, I would guess is focus, yeah, on working at Kernel and developing these insights when it comes to um yeah, psychosis and mood swings and so forth. Is that your I mean, and you want to improve people's life and deliver suffering. Do you feel, according to these goals, so let's assume that this is your life goal, do you feel you're on track to making the biggest and widest impact that you could right now or in the next 10 years?
I think about that a lot. I'm constantly trying to make sure that whatever I'm working on is the thing that is the most effective thing that I could be working on at the moment to in the pursuit of that goal. I genuinely believe that what Kernel's doing is unique in the landscape and there are reasons to expect that it has a better than average, better than typical chance at actually producing something useful for the world. I don't think it's the only avenue, but of the things available to me where I can make meaningful progress towards that goal, it's the one that it's the one that definitely seems like I'm doing useful work. Yeah, if someone wants to point me to somewhere where I can do more meaningful work, then feel free to let me know. But Kernel has my vote at the moment.
Well, Charles going OpenAI style and reuniting the team of the best scientists in the world and in the BCI field, that is, I think that would be a moonshot. And I think that OpenAI has opened her eyes to this. You really need to reunite the best of the best in one room, kind of.
Mm.
How much, if I would want to do so, how much should I pay a Sami to unite like a team of superstars?
So
300K a year, like.
I mentioned that I applied to Kernel like 3 or 4 times before they accepted me. I think the third time I put together a video cover letter, which I have no idea was a good thing or a bad thing. But one of the things that I said was, like, I would pay you to work there. Like, if you really want a Sammy, or someone who is really mission oriented, the money is not the thing. You need to build the right culture. You need to have the right, you have to, yeah, the culture is really important. You need to have the right kind of team structures. You need to have, you need to give them a good reason to believe that they're going to succeed there versus somewhere else. You have to do your diligence to actually structure your company in a way that has a chance of succeeding, and that's gonna give me the motivation to work there. I don't care about the money.
Deep, deep, deep. Okay, yeah. Lessons learned. Sami Jawhar, mesdames et
Jawhar.
messieurs, Jawhar on LinkedIn. Is that the best place to find you?
It's the easiest way to find me because I'm not really available. So I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, but I don't tweet. I used to use it just to keep track of neuroscientists, and apparently that's now fallen apart with Mastodon and stuff. I have some writing on Medium under the Cybermonk. I haven't written in a couple of years though since I joined Kernel. So yeah, I guess LinkedIn, Sammy at thecybermonk.com. Send me an email if you want to talk.
All right. Thank you so much.